This is Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? GriffinGamingRPG here, and welcome back to Soul Voices. Today is Saturday, June the 29th. We're almost done with the month of June, and I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a great weekend and enjoying life. And boy, what a great day to be here. We've got a special guest. We've got a special guest joining us, as you can see from our title. Our good friend SpaceTomato, all the way from Turkey, is going to be joining us today on Soul Voices, and we're going to be tackling a interesting topic that I think you guys will be interested in. Whoa, there we go. We got the raid from SpaceTomato Gaming. Thank you, SpaceTomato Gaming. Welcome, raiders. Hope you guys had a great time with our good friend SpaceTomato this morning, and we are excited to have him on board with us today as our guest, and to share and hear comments from you in the community. So thank you, Space. Hope Mrs. Tomato is doing well. There she is, Mrs. Tomato. Hope you are doing well. What a lovely couple. Hope you guys are doing well. Way over in Turkey. Hope you guys are doing good. Thanks for the raid, and thanks for being here. As we get ready, I want to just open up the show a little bit here. For those of you who've never been here before, Soul Voices is our one-on-one conversation that we have with folks in the community about the topics that we pick, usually from Spectrum or Reddit or from the Star Citizen community. And today we've got some topics today that we're going to be covering. So hope you're going to be ready for this, because it's going to be some good stuff. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing SpaceTomato's opinion on some of these subjects. Let's see, playing catch-up gamer. Thank you for that follow. Appreciate that. Thank you. So the title of today's show is Change is Gonna Come. Those of you, let's see who in chat knows where that comes from. I would love to see if anybody knows. Cataclysm, what's up? Thank you for that Prime sub, 15 months. Appreciate you. Glad you are here with us today. Who knows where that title comes from? Change is gonna come. Actually, CIG talks about it all the time too. The change is always coming, right? Way to go, New Soul. That's it. Old song. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Winter is coming. Yeah, I know. But change is going to come. It's been interesting to hear people's thoughts about the changes that happen in Star Citizen. Every once in a while, CIG will do something that kind of stirs the pot, I guess you could say. And there's this one group of people who wonders, why did they do that? There's another group of people who wonder, where are they going with that? And then there's the other group of people who says, oh, we knew that was coming. And I'm still kind of surprised that there are some things that CIG will mention from time to time that seems to catch the community or some of the community off guard. And sometimes they think it's something maybe like I think that one of the words that'll come up is like feature creep. They'll say, "Oh, there's feature creep," when actually it's something that Chris Roberts may have talked about way back in 2013 when he was doing those 10 for the chairman videos. So yeah, I think that some of it, and I don't get mad at people when they think that. I think that when you think about 10 years of information, 11 years, because that was 2013. When you think about 11 years of information, it's hard to think about going back and looking at all the archival images, all the website information, the newsletters. And maybe there was maybe 2 or 3 times that Chris said something about something. And if you were around back then, it may have stuck in your psyche, stuck in your mind. And you say, oh, I can't wait till they do that. I'm looking forward to doing that. But then they maybe haven't talked about it in a while. And then all of a sudden, CIG implements something and people feel like, well, where'd this come from? Or why are they doing that? When it's actually been a part of the blueprint from way, way, way back. So today we're going to talk about some of those things. I'm looking for my guest. I know he's getting ready to transition in, so I want to get his video in. Oh, there he is. He just popped in. I want to get him in for his video, and we are going to jump into it. Charles, DCI, what's up, my friend? Always good to see you. Thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for this subscription for 17 months. You've been a long-time follower of this show. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump into it. Our friend is here. I've got to punch him in, so let me get him punched in. You guys know him, the one and the only, the man himself, the legend. There he is right there, SpaceTomato. What's up, my brother? How are you?
Hey, good to see you, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today. How are things over there in Turkey? How's it going?
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Weather's nice. Food is good.
Always.
Yeah, it's going well. We've been moved into the house for a little while now, few weeks, but we haven't got internet yet.
Okay.
So we're working on getting that over the next couple of days, and then we're gonna move all of this. I'm like in my brother-in-law's bedroom right now. So we're still making moves, but things are good. How are you doing?
Okay. I'm doing good. I have one question for you. Okay.
Yeah.
If I visit Turkey, what is the dish, the meal that I have to have when I go?
Oh, dude. You're gonna ask me to give you one?
Okay.
Tough.
Well, okay. I'm just saying, if I had to find out, where can I get this? I mean, or is it okay? I'll take 2. I just want to know, what's the one thing that you would say you can't not leave Turkey without having what?
I mean, you have to try baklava. Like, you can't.
Baklava.
Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I would say as dinner, oh man, I really vibe with the Adana kebab, which is great. It's a little spicy. You eat it with onions. You got some peppers if you want. We'll go for the rice substitute and the meat, the kebab meat. Super nice. Very tender.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not a spicy person, but maybe I'll have to give it a try since you recommended it. If you recommended that, I'll have to give it a try. Now, baklava, is there a difference? And this is a stupid question, my naive American self. Difference between the Grecian baklava and Turkey baklava, or are they similar?
Well, it's a dish that came from the Ottoman Empire. Okay. So, that's a big area, and a lot of the different countries that came out of the Ottoman Empire have
their version of it.
But
gotcha.
The Ottoman Empire eventually ended up collapsing into the Turkish Republic, so it is considered a Turkish dessert, and then there are different versions of it.
Okay. See, I'm learning. We're learning some things here on Soul Voices today about Turkey and their meals. Okay, that's good stuff. All right, my friend. As I know you heard the opening there, we're going to be doing this topic of change is going to come. And I was just sharing with the audience about how sometimes change happens, and sometimes the community is taken aback by it. Sometimes the community says, "Yay, it's finally here." And there are some people who just say, "Where are they going with this?" Right? And so, how have you dealt with change when it comes to Star Citizen when things drastically change? Let's say, for example, like a master modes or a hover mode, or the fact when ship times change or the prices of ships goes up. How do you take them in stride? Do you say, "I knew this was coming"? Does it catch you off guard? How does that work for you?
There haven't been too many changes that caught me off guard. They've been surprisingly consistent with some of the things that they talked about a while ago. But I'll say recently the revelations about how they want everybody to be able to log on and off anywhere, that caught me by surprise. I roll with it. I mean, there are certainly things in the game that I wouldn't want to see changed, but for the most part, I'm cool with change because I really just want to see a good space game that I can spend some time in and hang out. The the little details aren't as big a deal to me, like whether or not I have a crosshair or something. That stuff doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah. I think part of the problem with change too is sometimes we as the backers, we don't see the big picture. We're just seeing that portion of the puzzle, right? And that quite often with development, that portion of a puzzle is just a stepping stone to something else, right? It's not the end game or the end of whatever that particular thing is. And so a lot of times I think when something comes up, maybe we've even gotten used to the way something is, right? And then when change comes about, it's like, well, why are they changing that? It was fine the way it was, or it was working the way it was, or where are they going with this thing, right? Or they seem like they're feature creeping, when sometimes it's just the fact that, from 1 to 100, maybe we've only at 60 or 70, right? There's still an 80 and a 90 that has to come. And maybe by then we say, oh, I get it. I see where they're going.
Well, it's funny because they'll get a bunch of crap for not, like, you guys promised so much stuff. Do the stuff you promised, and then they do it. And then people are like, why are you bringing in these features? Why are you adding more? It's like, well,
yeah,
they got to do one or the other.
Yeah. It's tough. And like any game, you get used to things. You get used to your keybinds, right? And then the keybind changes, and it's like the world's come to an end. The sky is falling, right? Because
very annoying.
We've just gotten used to it, right? And but and why did they move the such and such button? Well, maybe it's because there's another button that's coming later. I don't know. We'll find out. I guess part of this, Captain Serious Fun is notorious for saying this is about the journey. It's about the ride, right? And we have to kind of remember that we're in a journey and that things are going to change. And Disco tells us every week the one thing that we can count on is change, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Quantum, thank you so much for that sub. We appreciate that. Thank you. Let's jump into it, buddy. Let's bring up these topics here. Tomato's been here before, but I'm going to refresh him a little bit on how we do this show. Once again, we're going to bring up topics, and then we're going to ask you guys to come in. You can click on the link that pops up in Discord that allows you to come in and talk with me and Tomato and share your thoughts and your ideas about the topics that we bring up. So don't be shy. Don't hesitate. We always love having. This isn't about hearing from us. This is about us hearing from you, the community. So and if you've never talked to Tomato before, hey, here's your opportunity to do so. Okay.
Bye.
All right. Let me check something here. Make sure we're all set with our timers. And I think we are. Yeah, live Discord. Fastcard, if you could drop the link in for me for live Discord, that would be greatly appreciated. And we're going to jump into it. Okay. Very first thing here. This one actually is kind of directed to you a little bit. I tailor-made this question for you. Playing with the big boys now. Some of you guys might remember that. The future of larger, my bad typos. Oh my God. Larger content creators and communities. So here's the premise of this question, buddy. And this one I am going to ask you to comment on first, and then we'll bring folks in because I'm sure they'll want to comment on what you have to say about it. As this game becomes more popular, as it becomes more stable, as it becomes, in Chris Roberts' words, commercially viable, it is going to draw attention. And that attention is going to come from content creators like yourself, people who are out there playing other games, variety streamers, media, and also gaming communities. I think in some ways we've gotten comfortable with our little 5 million accounts, if that makes sense, right?
It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's very comfortable and warm and safe, And since we know about maybe 1.5 of those are probably duplicate accounts,
our little cult bubble, as they'll call it.
Right. We've got our little 3 million cult, right? But if this game is successful and if it's accepted, we can expect that that number is going to not only increase but increase exponentially. What are your thoughts about the fact that there are people like in Asmongold who are looking at this game, and other content creators who literally have millions of followers, and not that they'll become Star Citizen streamers. They may remain pretty much, multi-general streaming other games, but that influx can happen. And there could be people who literally, like yourself and like myself, have gotten sold on Star Citizen. People like Ali who came into the game. What happens later? Have you given any thoughts to what that impact will be? And also communities, right? This weekend there was Star Citizen Shenzhen, and 2,000 folks, right, that are over there in China who are like excited about this. But what happens when you get gaming communities like that who are going to come in from other gaming communities who say, wow, this game's finished, it's fabulous. What are your thoughts about the impact on that in the community?
Well,
Well,
the interesting thing about the bigger streamers coming in is the Squadron 42 angle gets me, because Squadron 42 is supposed to be a pretty big cash influx for Star Citizen. It's supposed to be, you can tell that CIG is counting on it.
right.
And a lot of times you hear this response to that of like, well, they're not going to do anything. They've already sold it. Everybody who wants Squadron has already bought it.
Mhm.
And then you go and you see these streamers like Ashold or Luke Stevens or any Summit 1G, any of these people who have a big following, and you see dozens of people who are like, wait a second, what is this? You can't even begin to imagine how many people haven't heard about this game or this project, let alone Squadron 42 yet. And I think that's one of the more interesting things I'm looking forward to is how is the Squadron going to fall into the overall industry? Because that's going to be much more easy to get in than Star Citizen. But that being said, it's going to be interesting to watch as the community expands with Star Citizen, because they need to keep the game funded. And they need to appeal to a wide audience to do that. But it's a relatively niche game in terms of design. So seeing how they figure out how to make the game accessible and approachable, but still keep a lot of those deep parts of the game, like literally having to manually load every box into your ship. That's an interesting sell. Lots of tutorials, lots of like little helps for new players and stuff that are going to have to be developed. And it seems like we're now getting to the point where they really need to focus on that hard. They tried to do the new player experience. You could tell that was important because they felt like the game was starting to get more viable, but we are so many steps ahead of when they brought that tutorial in, and the tutorial hasn't really kept up. So by the time we're into the 4.0 branch of updates, 4.1, 2, 3, I feel like they're going to have a lot more pressure to make sure this is a presentable game, or not just presentable, but a playable game. Because it's not. It's playable in the sense that it works, but as a casual player jumping into Star Citizen right now, it is painful.
Yeah. I was just sharing one of my buddies who just started playing within the last couple of months, and just showing him a workaround last night. We'll lead into this a little bit later, but we were getting ready to use the multi-tool in a hangar, and not working, right? And so his initial thing is, it doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, it works. Go up in the ship, take it out of your hand, put it in your inventory, put it back in your hand, turn it on, it'll work. It's like, who's gonna know that coming into the game, right? We make it work, right? We make it work, but that isn't, which the player experience shouldn't be that once the game is out. So there's still a lot of work to be done. Let me ask this about the communities. Let me ask this about do you think that content creators will come into this thing and really get hooked on it? Or do you think it'll just be because it's the latest game, let's try it out because the algorithms are saying doing it, and then after that, we're going to go on to the next new game? Because you mentioned about Star Citizen being kind of a niche.
Definitely both.
Okay.
Like, people will fall in love with this game. No doubt. It's not because it's some kind of monumental paradigm shift in gaming. It might be. I don't know how well it's going to pop off, but in terms of just the design of the game itself, it's really hard to find something that replaces it. Something that's first person, that allows you to control the things around you, fly in ships while you're doing that, and then also do it with friends. It's hard to find. And when a game looks this good doing it, I do think that it's really going to capture some people. And you're going to see a lot more people regularly covering this game. You can already see it. YouTube channels now compared to even just a year ago, so much different. I've had to consider how I make my own videos or when I release them, because there are so many more people now trying to cover the same stuff, and that's just going to continue to increase and increase. There will also be other people who play a lot of variety games that generally go through the cycles. This game's getting an update, I'm playing this. Okay, back to my normal game for a month. Oh, this game just came out. Okay, I'm playing this. Okay, back down to my normal game again. And I think Star Citizen will fit in that cycle for a lot of people, because it's a regularly updating game, and we know it will be for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, and last thing I want to ask is about communities. And by the way, guys, don't forget, you can click on the link. I think we put the link in for you guys. It is there. Fastcart put it in if you guys want to come in and talk to me and SpaceTomato about this. My next question to you is this: impact of other people coming into this community who may not be familiar with the culture. You know, Star Citizen, for many people, when they come into here, I can't tell you how many times people have said this is one of the nicest cultures, one of the most helpful cultures. We're crazy too, by the way, but they do say a lot of positive stuff about this. And people who said, I've never been in a gaming community like this before. What do you think the impact will be? Do you think that, I'm not saying that we have to gatekeep, and I know that CIG has a responsibility in this too, but what do you see our cult as it starts to get flooded in and we start to become literally the minority, pardon the expression? You know, if we go from 5 million accounts to 20 million accounts, that shifts it, the dynamic shift. How do you think that will look as far as these other communities and people coming in?
Let me ask this. Do you think the culture of the community or the feel of the game overall changed at any point in this development? Like if you had to find a time where you felt like things really kind of shifted in terms of development and things moving forward, where would you say that was in the last 10 years?
There were two phases for me. One was 2017, 2018, around that period of time, post Sandworm. But by the time the Austin CitizenCon happened, that was one point for me with Refocus, because that was, I think in 2017 was when the Vertical Slice came out.
Okay. Yeah.
The next time, well, actually there were 3 times. The next time would have been when CIG announced to us that they were shifting the majority of their resources toward finishing Squadron 42.
Right.
And then the third one would be this most recent one where that door swung the other way. And CIG said, now we're putting an emphasis on the persistent universe.
So that time when they shifted that focus, that was around late 2020, right?
Right.
Or so.
Mm-hmm.
More people, if you joined before that point,
mm-hmm.
then you're in the minority of the community now.
Right. Right. Yes.
And I think most people have probably noticed that shift.
Yep.
And that's going to accelerate so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that it's really going to change the vibe of the community. But I do think that, it has this base that is very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
What I've always wondered is a lot of the passion of this base community comes from the fact that CIG didn't do a lot of this stuff. We did it. Mm-hmm. We made the tutorials. We built the websites that show you where trading routes are. We built the communities where you could find groups. People were even creating conventions and events and stuff, right? We taught the players, we taught each other, we did all this stuff ourselves, and that built really, really close connections, because it was like, well, we're all suffering through this together. Mm-hmm. No offense, CIG, but we were suffering a lot of that. And I think that made the connection and the community itself a lot stronger. And as CIG starts to take more of that control back, they're bringing Bar Citizens in-house, mm-hmm. they're focusing more on their convention, they're bringing in tutorials, guide systems, all this kind of stuff that's starting to slowly erode the responsibilities of the community. I do wonder, will that also mean that the community feels a little bit less attached to each other?
Good point. Okay.
And then on top of that, obviously the expansion of everybody else coming in just kind of dilutes the energy.
Dilutes it even more, yeah. Okay. All right, we've got some folks who are coming in and love to talk with us. So first I'm going to bring in Fist to Face. And Fist, you're here with SpaceTomato. Say hey.
Oh, wow, I am.
What's up, Fist?
Hey, what's up there, Tomato?
Good to see you, man.
Can I get an autograph? How you doing, buddy?
Only if I get a free song, man. I'm good. How have you been?
Of course. I've been good, man. Glad to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Oh, so let me narrow this question down. Give me the question that you're asking us to. I'll try to understand here.
Yeah, the idea is just the playing with the big boys. The fact that as this game becomes, working under some assumptions here that the game comes out, it's accepted, good reception, delivers what it says it's going to deliver. It's going to draw the attention of more content creators. It's going to draw attention to more gamers. What are your feelings about that future? Do you think that it will be you know, are you like, you know, there are some people who feel, for example, certain communities when they come into this game, they may bring a negative side to the game. Other people think it'll be great for more people. I can finally invite my friends now. The game is stable, right? You know, what do you think about that? Because we've kind of had this little safe bubble right now in development, but once development's over, you know, the floodgates open, right?
I mean, yeah, it's you. I mean, it's no question about it. We're going to get we are going to get the riffraff. There's no questions about it.
Okay.
You're going to get the riffraff. I mean, it's just like me and you. We played Mortal, and we know how that was in the beginning. You had everybody was in Bhakti. It was just like everybody, and you know, on the microphones, you know, spewing their silliness and stuff like that. And then what happened? After time, it died down. So I think that the same way, just like with any other game, what's going to happen is, as I see the scope, is that your hardcore to your semi-hardcore, the ones that have been invested into this game are going to stay around for the long haul. It's going to be a wave, and then it's going to drop down. It may be another wave when the new content comes out. It might not be the biggest wave as the first wave, but then it's going to drop down. It's going to be like that. It's just like, that's just the way the gaming is in the industry for us, as far as consumers is concerned.
Okay. All right.
Now, the negative thing, I mean, it's going to come. It's going to come. It's coming with it. We already see it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right. All right. That's fair. All right, Fist. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's bring in David. David's going to come in and talk to us. Hey, David. Welcome. And you're here with SpaceTomato.
Hi there.
How are you?
Hey, David.
Sorry, let me just mute Twitch because I can hear myself twice.
Sure. No problem.
Right. So can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Yep.
Ideal. Now, I was thinking about this question kind of in terms of FPS, because a lot of mainstream guys aren't going to be that like FPS content, may not be quite used to a game like Star Citizen, which is a big sim. It takes a lot of time to get ready. You need to invest maybe like 15 minutes just to start a mission. And it makes me wonder how they're going to balance the fun aspect of attracting that crowd. And I think they can, because they think about games like DayZ. That's a pretty hardcore survival game that has a big audience. But my worry is that they're sticking to this death of a spaceman is going to hinder some of the really exciting firefights from being something that we see regularly in the space, because people will be too scared to risk their characters getting into those types of conflicts.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. You're right. I mean, we can go to the far end, like a Tarkov or a DCS. We can go to the other end where there's more like the Call of Duty, and it seems like CIG's trying to find some place in between there. At least to me, it seems like that's what they're trying to do. They want an aspect of realism, but not so hardcore that, you know, and to your point, something like Death of a Spaceman, some people may consider that hardcore. You know, they really may. Other people embrace it as a challenge, and other people could be very much turned off by it. I think that's an interesting observation. I never really thought about, will something like that be enough to tell people, say, forget it. You know, I put in all this time, and I mean, not to be funny, I'm listening to people now. We were just talking about Elden Ring's new DLC that came out. One of our friends, Togi, just told me he completed it yesterday, and he welcomed the challenge of it. But then there's been a huge pushback of people saying it's just too difficult, it's too hard. And I remember when Dark Souls came out, the same thing happened then. And so I wonder sometimes, there's a part of me that David, that makes me wonder if CIG, if Chris Roberts is trying to, whether consciously or subconsciously, raise the bar a bit level with gamers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of taking us back to the old school of back when you used to put a quarter in and you only got 3 lives and that was it. You know what I mean? There was no instant respawning. You lost your quarter, you know? But I don't know.
You used to boast that you finished the game rather than that being an expectation.
Yeah. Tomato, I don't know. You got any thoughts on that? Because I think he mentioned some good points.
Well, I think that what I've been thinking over the last few years is they keep on building on FPS and we get a little bit closer to that reality of Death of a Spaceman. I realize they do need to make sure that they can have this Death of a Spaceman mechanic, but they need to make it hard to die. And
Yeah.
they talked about that when they first brought in the medical system in 3.15. They said, you're not in this game moving forward, not right now because we got glitches and everything everywhere, but they said, you're not going to die almost ever. The things that you're getting killed by now are just going to down you.
Yeah.
And even when you do die, that's when I think they need to come in and be like, okay, we've got 20 lives that you can go through before you lose your character. That way, yes, there is a pain from dying and losing progress on that character, but you're not too scared to get into combat. The other side, though, is Arena Commander. I think Arena Commander makes a great opportunity for them to appease a lot of people looking for closed gameplay, and that goes far beyond combat. You can basically say you've got private servers in Arena Commander where you can launch into many different locations that we've got throughout the game. The Coil, Stanton, Broken Moon, whatever it might be, mining, salvaging, combat. Allowing people to do that in Arena Commander would, I think, relieve a lot of the pressure on them to make sure the PU is more casual friendly.
Let me ask you a question. Why don't people go there now to do it? Why do people seek that action in the persistent universe when Arena Commander's there for them?
I think partially it's that a lot of people don't know. It's pretty janky. It's hard to find matches.
Okay.
And the gameplay itself is still not great. The only thing you can do is combat, and combat is still getting some work done on it. But if they did offer opportunities to go in there and do just closed custom lobby mining with 12 of your friends in a I don't know, a 40-kilometer stretch of asteroid belt, I think a lot of people would love that.
Okay.
And even better, break out Arena Commander, throw it on Steam, let people play it outside of Star Citizen as a little bit of a Trojan horse. They'll never do that. They're going to use their own launcher, but there's just a lot of opportunities, I think, with Arena Commander to help.
Agreed. Okay, David, thank you, man. Appreciate you stopping in. All right, David, great guy. Somebody said he's Scottish, I guess. I don't know. All right, let me bring in let me bring in Pops in Space next. Pops, you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you?
Okay.
Good.
Hey,
Hey, Pops. How's it going?
Okay. Tell the wife I said hi. Okay.
Will do.
All right. My point is this. Squadron 42 is a first-person shooter. So that's pretty easy for most gamers to understand what they're getting into. You follow the storyline, you come up to the end. I think that's going to be a difficult transition to go from Squadron 42 to Star Citizen, because Star Citizen, like David alluded to, it's 20 minutes to prepare, find this, get things together. So I think those people that think of a typical MMO that want to go in and start hacking and slashing and seeing their progression climb up. I'm today I got to level 16. Star Citizen is not that. So I think you're going to have a lot of rumblings about that, because I've talked to some people and they said, man, I'm going to buy me one of those arrows or whatever it is, and I'm going to blow up these people with these $42,000 ships. So there's a lot of misinformation about Star Citizen. So I think you're going to have a big influx into Star Citizen, and they're going to find out it's not what they think it is. It's a much more methodical type game, much more involved mining, cargo hauling. So we'll probably hear a lot of grumbling on that end in the beginning. Oh man, this game it takes you too long to do this. And and when I finally got out there and I got blown up, and I'm leaving because they don't understand it. And Griff, you touched on an excellent point about the community. I think the community itself has that point when we kind of cradle these people a little bit and kind of say, well, that's not what it is. And we kind of guide them in and let them know the pace of the game is a little bit different. So I think the pace of the game is going to be very difficult for people to come in from people like Asthma Gold and things like that. They're going to hear the game is beautiful and great, but I think the pace of the game is going to wind up hurting a lot of people and
Yeah.
that influx.
Okay.
We already hear it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Pops. Thank you. Yeah, I think to Pops' point, that is a combination of both those people who it may be the game is just not their game. It's not the game for them. And we've talked about this on the show before, that sometimes Star Citizen just may not be the game for certain people, as much as we may love it. But there will be some people who maybe never have considered a game like Star Citizen. Maybe they will play, to Pop's point, play Squadron. They come in and play the Persistent Universe because they hear about it and they say, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Or I never knew gaming could be like this. You know, I think you're going to get both. The people who are drawn and the people who are like, nah.
I know there are people out there like me, and I am not the kind of person who would have played Star Citizen when I first found it. I came from consoles. I didn't even have a PC when I first found out about this game. I was playing Halo, Mass Effect, BioShock, and like name an action adventure RPG. I was playing those constantly. I was looking for a space game. They canceled Star Wars 1313. Mass Effect 3 came out, so I had nothing else to go to. Prey 2 wasn't a thing. Deus Ex got moved back. Like, I was looking for something to scratch that itch, and this game came out and did it. And I think there's a lot of people out there that'll find this and be like, okay, I'll suck it up for an MMO if I get to play stuff like this.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Thank you for the resub. 25 months. Love you. Thank you so much. And David, MCG, thank you for that follow. Last one we're going to bring in here is Admiral Kusanagi. Let's bring in Admiral. Admiral, you're here with SpaceTomato.
Afternoon.
Howdy.
Hey, Admiral.
Hey, guys. So you guys, a lot of stuff is being brought up. We talk about the 3 games that we have coming up between, the PU, which will eventually be like our MMO, and then the RPG Squadron 42, and then kind of more like the arcade version of if it's going to be what Star Marine, and then Arena Commander, and then potentially eventually TOW, right? So we haven't heard much about TOW in a long time. But there's 3 different games there that Chris Roberts is making for different types of people that have different amount of time to actually play a game. We start to see where Star Citizen is going in terms of how much time it's going to take to do a mission, how much time it's going to take to load boxes, depending upon how bigger your ships are. So when we look at how much quote-unquote competition we're going to have on, say, Twitch, to allow these streamers come on. I mean, you look at WoW Beta right now, they've got 30,000 people playing that. Fortnite's got 55,000 people playing that right now. Elden Ring, which is an RPG, has got 160,000 people watching that right now. Star Citizen has 4.4 thousand. And Mass Effect 2 actually has 1.4. So when you look at like the numbers, all of those only have like World of Warcraft, which has got, again, 30,000 people watching it. There's only 2 people with over 2,000 viewers, with over 1,000 viewers. Fortnite, DayZ has 3 viewers over, 3 streamers over 1,000 viewers. So it's kind of like on the line of where the streamers can. I've seen everybody. Like, I think SpaceTomato has seen you up in the high hundreds too. So I mean, I feel like there's plenty of space to kind of for people to migrate to someone who want to play and talk to the community the way they talk to the community. So in terms of and also there might be streamers that just play Squadron 42.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have I played Mass Effect 1, 2, 3? I played the Old Republic, the first one, like a gajillion times. If there's people that have interest in that, and you're trying to make your community and your streaming community larger, you'll kind of go towards whichever one works for you. But it's also which one that kind of makes you enjoy being a streamer, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to kind of be like the big thing. I think there's room, but I also think to end, this is a niche game because of everything that's going to make it up. I really do think that.
Okay. All right, Admiral. Thank you. Some good points there.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think that also vibes with what's being said in the chat right now, which is that there's just so many different things to do in Star Citizen. If you come across a game, just to pick a game that he mentioned, Fortnite, there's a lot to do. Well, okay, maybe that's not a good game because they've really expanded, but pick a game like Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah.
You know, and you're getting an FPS experience, and you're looking for people with a certain skill level, maybe certain social aspects, the way they talk or joke, or they're funny, or they play a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go into a game like Star Citizen, and you can go and watch bounty hunting, farming, crafting. I mean, you can't watch these things right now, but the idea is that bounty hunting, mining, salvage, racing, low flying, whatever it is, you can find that sort of mini community within the MMO. And I think that's how a lot of MMOs work. Like I said, I'm not an MMO player,
Mm-hmm.
but they succeed on their variety, and Star Citizen has built possibly too much variety into the game.
That's very true. Okay. All right, gang. Well, thank you. That was our first topic for today. Thank you guys for jumping in. And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you guys and hear your thoughts on the topics that we're bringing up. We've got an interesting one here that I'm going to bring for SpaceTomato. The title for this one, Tomato, is Star Citizen Has an Economy. Did you know that?
Had no idea. I loved the answer that Nick gave when Disco asked him that question. He's like, "Oh, okay, I see. I see the questions now."
I know. And this has been interesting that people have argued this point of, does Star Citizen have an economy? And his answer, I get his answer. I do. It's not the economy we're looking for. It's not the economy that, ultimately they're going to do. But there is a dynamic. Listen, we can talk about all the RMC people, right? The people that were trying to make money. That's an economy in some form, whether you want to call it AUEC or what. But one of the things that does drive a lot of the players here is not just accomplishment in the sense of achieving some goal, but that goal is quite often built around how much AUEC did I make when I did this thing, right?
Right.
So what I want to show you here for a second is a couple of clips. We're going to look at clips from yesterday's show. For those of you who didn't see the SCL, if you haven't watched it, this was a part 2 that they did called Making Missions. And they basically break down how they prepare a mission, particularly the payouts, right? The rewards, as they call it, right? Effort versus reward. They're going to talk about the EVR. I'm just going to show you guys 2 clips, and then we're going to talk about this a little bit more. But I think it's important that we pay attention to this because, as I mentioned earlier, Tomato, ship prices went up within this last patch. So people are going to have to start factoring in these things when it comes to the game. But change is going to come, and it is coming. It's coming very quickly in 3.24. So let's take a look at these 2 clips, and then we'll talk about it.
All right, Nick, what do we do?
Well, I think we should use a convenient little economy tool that I made to work out what the EVR should be for this mission.
What's EVR?
So, EVR is effort versus reward. EVR is a universal algorithm that allows us to balance the effort that anybody puts in for anything with the amount of reward that they should get for it. And the reward could be UEC, it could be reputation, it could be all manner of things coming soon TM. But it basically allows us to create a baseline for calculating fair reward based on time and difficulty. Obviously, there are a lot of other factors that come into all these things, but EVR allows us to have a baseline to work from. So, to get that baseline for one of these missions, the first thing we need to do is decide what grade of mission we're going to do, which is going to tell us how much needs to be taken.
That's right.
What kind of so we have the progression, right.
This is the grade progression that we've landed on, which is essentially what kind of missions you get to see as you start in your cargo hauling career, when you've not really made a name for yourself, you're kind of a nobody, and that means the missions that are available to you will be, very low volume, lower risk, and you'll be moving less value and volume as well. So that means the small grades you could see here at the very bottom, those are relatively low in quantity, and then as you progress through the ranks, you'll start unlocking and seeing multiple different kind of other grades show up in your contracts app. So supply grade would be, a little bit bigger for the bigger kinds of ships, until at the very end game of your career, when you're really trusted, you've proven yourself. That's when you get to do the really big hauls, and that's when sort of missions will show up that ask you to move things even just from jump point to jump point and stand in places that don't even have you stop here.
Chat's talking about poop missions.
Poop
missions.
I mean, is there
Every MMO's got to have a poop mission.
Agricultural supplies, we do have those as commodities. So if you want to be a poop hauler, we got you covered.
Okay. Let me show you that clip. I'm gonna show you one more clip here.
Okay.
All right. The next part of EVR is time.
Yes.
So we're going to figure out how long this mission would take, more or less.
Okay, so I just happen to know, based on numbers that we have tested internally, that somewhere in the middle, let's say around 95, because that's between 80 and 110, that would take you around 4.5 minutes to load, and you're going to have to load it and unload it. So let's put 9 in loading.
Okay.
Now you're going Seraphim to Cruel 1, so there's no orbits involved, so that's 0 and 0 on those two.
Trying to leave or enter atmosphere would increase the time.
It would, because you're going to have to get through the 10K and back again. And then the actual quantum travel is, what, a minute between Seraphim? I mean, generously, it's probably
Something
30
like
seconds,
that.
but if
Spooling up and everything, yep.
Okay, so that is 10 minutes total.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the mission, we have the difficulty, we have the time. So if we hit the magic calculate button, again, just as a caveat, this is an illustrative tool. This is not the way that we work out EVR for all of the missions. That involves code and algorithms. But if you hit the magic button,
hit it,
then somebody knows how to write script.
There we go.
In Excel. And it makes a little pretty number. Now I know that there's a lot of people looking at that going, 4,000 UEC, that's ridiculous. What's the point? If you take into account, this is a 10-minute mission. So if you were organized, you could do maybe 5 of these an hour. So then you're looking at 20K, or you could maybe even do a bit more if you had a friend helping you. So
yeah, the comparison is going to be a tricky thing right now, because all anybody rightfully knows and understands is how it's been before.
Absolutely.
As this begins to develop, a new scale will begin to emerge. As this continues to evolve, as this begins to grow, the idea of what 4,000 credits is will change 100%. Over time. Some people will embrace it, some people won't. Some people will punch chairs. Yeah, I'm on that. I just found out about it like 5 minutes before the show, so it's like new information to me. But yeah, so just keep that in mind, that this is a scale that will continue to evolve and change and stuff like that.
Okay. So I want to talk about this thing that Disco said there about this is of something that will evolve and change. Yeah. And again, guys, you guys can come in and talk to us about this. I'm one of those people that has always said, Tomato, that how like when you buy a package and they say you get 20,000 UEC for the game. Mm-hmm. I've always said that 20,000 UEC will buy a flight suit, a helmet, and a pistol. And that might be it, right?
Yeah.
And to the point, they just showed this one mission. He said, and mind you, they said that this is not the complete way that they come up with what the reward would be. There's analytics they use. There's all types of stuff that they come up with to determine the value of a mission. But they just gave us a general base number of 4,000. I think it was 4,250. And there are a lot of people right now that would put their nose up to that, right? They'll be like, 4,000. I'm not even looking at a mission that's given 4,000, right?
Yeah.
But $4,000, depending on how they do the economy, could be a lot of money or little money, right? When it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they just balanced the ships and moved them up is probably reason to make people nervous, because if the ship price is moved up, that's probably what a lot of the game's going to be based on. So they are saying that we're changing the scale, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the earning rates that you guys are talking about for this, and imagining that the scale is going to change, maybe to make this feel more significant. Maybe 10,000 UEs for a job is a big deal.
Right.
We don't know yet, but we've seen the price of ships. Now, that's also considering we're at a state with the game where we think that ships is the only thing to buy. Components are going to end up being way more important in the long run. You're also talking about fees, docking fees, looking at insurance, the price of maybe building a base or buying materials for that, or even owning a house in the
Right.
city. All of these
Renting a
things are
house.
going to factor into how much money we're spending, and
Mhm.
maybe a 10-minute mission to get 4,000 is decent, but we just don't know that yet, and that's hard
Yeah.
because it's all happening over time. It's
yeah.
happening over the course of different patches. I mean, they raise the prices of ships without raising our payouts. People think, oh, they're just trying to sell more ships,
Right.
when in reality, maybe they don't have parts of the economy ready.
Right. Right. Yeah. To go out and buy your $70 million hammerhead when you're only making 4,000 a mission doesn't feel very good, right? I'm glad you introduced these other factors that I think we know that many of you guys know this, but there are some people who are new to the game may not know it. That they're right now when people earn their money, their biggest thing is, can I, to your point, Tomato, it's can I get my next ship that I'm curious about, or can I get my components and my weapons that I want to trick my ship out? That's been pretty much where the buck stops. But all the other things that are going to get introduced, such as renting a hangar or renting additional cargo space, the medical insurances for things like that when you get hurt and you have to get a cybernetic arm or leg, insurance on cargo when you go places, fuel, repairs, operations, resources, all these things start to get factored into that amount of money that you're bringing in. So if you, not to be funny, but if you made $1 million a week, you may find that your overhead expenses are $800,000. That might be your overhead expenses. Or if you only make $10,000 a week, maybe $8,000 is your expenses. So, Bedrin, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. So to your point, Tomato, there's so many things that haven't been introduced yet that we want to make the players aware of so that they don't get the sticker shock when these things pop up in the game. Because they're maybe, and Disco said at the very end there, people have gotten used to making a certain amount of money. You know, you can go out and spend a few hours and make, and it all depends on the balancing, right? Remember when, for example, salvaging was going on, you know, and people were going out and getting all the containers off of a ship and making $1 million within a couple hours, right? That's Monopoly money, gang. You know, that's Monopoly money. It's going to change. And I think that's the thing we really want to emphasize here is that it's going to change. Let me bring in a couple people here. We've got Admiral Kusanagi who's coming back in to talk to us. Admiral?
Yes, sir. I mean, you guys kind of you hit the head on the nail on the head earlier when you talked about we don't know the value of money. Because, you know, in the 1940s, you could buy a house for $10,000. Now you need, you know, now a dollar's worth, you know, not as much. So you have to spend $500,000 for that same house.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, $1 million UEC could be worth, you know, $1 billion. You know, I don't expect to be in my job to be able to afford an F-16.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect to be able to buy a F-8, you know, doing Aurora mission, you know, a couple of Aurora missions a day.
Right.
So you need to scale up your operations so you can buy a bigger and better thing. So you can buy, and then it just continues. But like you said, you know, we make $4,200, and then, you know, what's the profit? You know, portion of that. We have to pull up the Excel sheet. Like, where am I actually making money in that run? You know, is my Whammer burger like put me in the red, and I'm buying too many Whammer burgers because you know how like people like to do in this game is, I need 1,000 you know med pens to put in all my ships, so to put them in my reserve.
Yeah.
So I just spent 50,000 UEC in med pens for some stupid reason. So it really comes down to, you know, how much the market is going to allow, and then also, you know, the value that the economy is going to kind of create. And I think, again, I think a lot of that is going to be based from the NPC economy. You know, like we look at quantum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they're going to put in the game, and I think everybody's really looking forward to.
Yeah, good point. You know, Tomato and Admiral, there's a thing that Admiral just raised that's really important is the fact that the economy is going to be dynamic. In other words, guys, when you go to Wally's and you get your Schlotz beer and it was $5 today, you may come back another day and it's $8. You know, fuel at your favorite place might be, you know, 1,000 to reload your ship, and you come back the next day and it's maybe 1,500, or maybe it's only 500. That is going to, the volatility of the market and the things changing in the economy is going to be something that's going to be a driver. You may end up choosing where you live based upon what you can afford. To Tomato's point, Living at Microtech might be one price. Living at Orison is another price. Living at Hurston might be free. I'm just picking on the Hurston lovers out there. But yeah, this economy is much bigger than what we have right now. This is economy. I don't know if it's even 0.1. But they're looking to build this economy out so it's a living, in the words of Tony Zarovic, a living, breathing economy that changes, that flows. And that will also tremendously affect how we play the game. Tomato, you got any thoughts on that about the economy being dynamic and changing?
Yeah. The economy, I mean, that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
It's very boring to sit in a static system, which I know our system isn't static, but there's not enough capacity to really see it changing that much. Not enough space either. Like, we have one star system. There's so much more we could be doing. But I think that above all, what could really help this out is to, and this is going to sound crazy because it's a game and we love money, but like, de-emphasize the money as the progression metric.
Mm-hmm.
And start bringing in other stuff, whether it's reputation or, I don't know, items that you're collecting from people you're meeting and loot that you're getting, but allowing people to focus more on other methods of progressing in this game might make people focus less on the fact that they absolutely need to get a bigger ship. I need to feel like I'm moving forward and upgrading my ship, and instead teach people to focus more on maintaining their ship or adding new parts to their ship rather than just getting a new one constantly.
Right. And I appreciate the fact that they mentioned that EVR, effort versus reward, did not just mean credits, to your point. It could be reputation. It could be other dynamics of things that once you accomplish something, that there's some other benefit that comes from it other than just AU, or not AUEC, but UEC. Thank you, Admiral, for dropping in on that. Let me bring in Togi, and then we'll bring in Fist to Face. Hey, Togi.
What up?
How are you?
I'm chilling.
Good.
Togi.
So this is my thing here, right? Like, when it comes to them balancing the economy, the elephant in the room here is the fact that Star Citizen has a paid store.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a point which, if they decide to balance the grind in such a way, it's going to lend credence to people saying that the game is pay to win.
Mm.
And that's something that I am very worried about whether or not they're going to be able to achieve.
Yeah.
Like, they have to be able to maintain a certain cadence of progression that makes the game viable for people that don't want to spend $10,000.
Right. I'm hoping, Togi, that later CIG, the question has always become, what's CIG going to do when the game launches? Will they continue to sell ships? And there are plenty of people who, and I understand the argument of, they'll always sell ships. That's the thing. My model, and this is, guys, doesn't mean I know squat, okay? My model is they stop selling ships. What they will sell are starter packages. What they will sell will be concepts. They're introducing a new career. Their gameplay is building out more. And now there's this new career, and here's the new concept ship for it. One time only. That money helps bring in funding for the project. Gives that advantage of people who know that that's something that they want to do because they're interested in that career. And then once that ship goes off concept and that's it, it's done. Doesn't come back again. At that point, the only way you get ships are in game by playing the game. Or they've talked about, surprisingly, Tomato, we talked about those things that they drop on us that we didn't expect. CitizenCon last year. Oh, you're going to have blueprints and you can make your own ships. I didn't expect to hear that monster come out of nowhere, right? So someone even suggested that maybe that's one of the reasons why the Anvil F7s were taken out, because maybe they'll make them blueprints that we can make in the game, and it can still survive in the game, and they can be sold between players. So if they, to your point, Togi, if they find ways to keep that economy driven within game so that outside store that you're talking about does not have that type of impact, it's something we should pay attention to.
My pushback on that is that you can buy currency.
That can change too. They could change that too. I agree. I'm saying I think they need to migrate, to your point, the economy to the game. Right now,
exactly.
Reduce all those extras beyond. Like I said, I have no problem with them when a concept ship coming out to get real cash in. That's it. But once that's done, that's it. It's gone. If you want a ship, go to the freaking convention. Go rent it that day. At the IAE, and then work for it in game. As far as I'm concerned. But I think you raised a good point to be concerned about.
I don't think they will ever shake the label of being pay to win, even if it's not pay to win. It is definitely pay to get ahead, pay to unlock, pay to skip the grind, if you will. And that's not to say that's going to bring you happiness and fulfillment of whatever it is you want to do in game, but it can set you up, and a lot of people get money as children and then they go and squander it and they mess it up. But a lot of other people get money as children and they build an empire from it. And you can absolutely have some money coming into this game that somebody else doesn't.
Yeah.
And that money can catapult you into making a mining empire that might not affect anybody else, but it makes a difference in your experience. And I think they'll always have to deal with that.
Yeah. Thanks, Togi. Thanks for bringing that up. I think this is a very valid and good concern that hopefully CIG is looking at too. Last but not least, let's bring in Fist to Face again. Fist, you there?
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
This is a tough one because as I hear the conversation shift towards pay to win, because I've if you know, Griff, my story background, I've come from pay to win games, from playing Blade and Soul, from playing the Revelation Online, and I know how bad that can run rampant in those games. How does Star Citizen combat this? Well, that's a tough issue because the optics of it, just like I was when I looked at it at the time, Legatus package was $20K. So coming from a player who came from those types of games, yeah, it's a big turnoff until I learned what the game is. Now, the game, as I've seen, now is more skilled based because obviously you can go out and buy yourself a Javelin for with $2,000. But if you don't have a crew to crew it, it's a flying paperweight. You know what I mean? So I think education is going to be very key here as far as on the player's part, but as on CIG's part, as far as the optics look. And when we're talking about pay to win, that's going to be a difficult thing for them to have to shake, because it's already stained. That stain is there. Yeah, I came from that stain. It's going to take a lot of bleach to get that out. A lot of dry cleaning.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, to your point, is what people have been used to. That it's just the generic version of this: pay more money, get ahead of everybody. Right. That's pretty much what if you just put it in a nutshell. If I pay more money for this, I'll be ahead in some form. And I appreciate the way you said it is kind of like pay to avoid the grind. I kind of never heard of it that way before. Right. Yeah. I get that. And you're right. I'm one of those people I'm 60 years old. I've grinded for 40 years of my life. I'm not trying to go back to grinding like that. I'm just not. And my time doesn't allow for me to do that. And I appreciate the fact that people can do it. But I'm also very much aware that just because I have a certain ship does not necessarily give me some great advantage over other people. Hopefully, the way they're structuring this game, it doesn't do that.
Well, to a point here, though, Griff, because I think there has to be some kind of counterbalance with grind because we have to look at reputation. Even though we can, like you said, you have you're almost Praetorian or almost to Legatus, right?
No comment.
No comment. Okay, not a problem. Understand.
He's on the great journey.
I'm somewhere in between. How's that? I'll be fair enough to say that I'm somewhere in between.
Gotcha. Understand. No problem. My point to it is that being at somebody who has all of these ships and like myself, I've bought ships. I'm whatever. You come into the game, but where the game really gets good is probably behind reputation. And that's why I kind of have to try to think about the balance for them to really to say, okay, yeah, you got the big ship, you got all of this stuff, but how do you get components? How do you get the big shiny? Because let's be real. Whenever we go into most MMOs, our mindset is what? To get better gear. Our mindset is the gear grind. So we're focused on trying to get, well, man, what's that shiny thing over there? Ooh, okay, well, how do I get it?
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For a lot of players, that's the drive, admittedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Pyro is going to be a good litmus test of that to see just how much they're willing to start putting behind reputation gates as opposed to being able to just buy or find things.
Yeah. True. Okay. All right, buddy. Thank you very much for dropping in, as usual, Fist. All right, we got a couple more folks here. Let's bring in Red Bear 1. Red is here with SpaceTomato. How are you, Red?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing good.
Good.
Yeah, the Star Citizen has the economy. Is it game-based or is it in-game purchase-based? Because I hear now both parts.
Yeah, well, according to them, there is some kind of economy in there. So, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. Well, I think to a point, the pay to win is there, of course, but you need also other people, and that makes it less pay to win.
Mm-hmm.
For example, as soon as you want to quickly load up your ship, well, some people have already tested it out, and it is not fast if you're alone. But if you have with more people, it goes a lot faster.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't have to wait an hour. It's going to be quite a lot shorter.
Right.
So, how far you can take this pay to win is in numbers. In numbers, and same goes for the javelin. If you have the people there, it's pay to win.
Yes.
If you don't have the people, it's not. It's you pay the ship for other people to crew.
Yeah.
It's not for yourself. That's one thing that's for sure. One more thing, the in-game economy for I think that will come with crafting. The crafting is the last demand for the wall to make it whole. As long as we don't have the crafting, it's all isolated. Because what can you do with the materials you mine, or what can you do with the materials you cargo haul from A to B? You need someone to have a need for the materials to craft something. The only thing that has a bit crafting is the salvaging at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we are waiting for this. We kind of how you call this? We talked about crafting ships, like the Hornet Mark 1 that's now taken out of the game. That maybe they put it in that way, the crafting for the Hornets, that we can craft for other people.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of economy there.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of options of where they can go. And again, you raise other issues of things that we have to think about when we're working in the game to make money. There's so many ways that, I forget what the term is they call it, but it's basically that you have to continually spend money in the game. I forget what the phrase is for it. But it's going to be, to your point, way more than just because you're buying components or guns for your ship.
Yeah,
a lot of things that we're going to end up having to spend money for.
Yeah, the whole maintenance, right?
Yes, operation.
You need the money sink. You need it.
Money sink. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Thanks, Red.
Yes.
Tomato, you got any thoughts on that before we go forward? We got one more for Pops in Space.
I mean, I'm really interested in what they do with components. That's a big part of it. And it's kind of like, do you balance this game for the fun you want everyone to have, or do you balance it to make sure that these ships don't give people a big advantage? Because, we start to tread into the territory of NPC crew, of AI blades, of how much you're going to get paid for missions, how much it costs to upkeep a ship. Do you have the right amount of people to upkeep that ship? Therefore, are you getting enough money from missions to pay those people? There's just so much balance that goes into this one aspect of how do we combat the fact that you can buy these big ships. And they've set up the systems. We see things like engineering, physicalized cargo, components, like all these things are kind of starting to materialize. But at the end of the day, it's like, how are they going to fit together? How is the money going to flow? And will it frustrate players too much the way that they've had to limit things in order to make sure that that's not a problem?
Yeah. I'm going to bring in Pops, and I'm going to make a comment, and we're going to our next question, our final question for the day. Pops, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm the missions that they refer to are contractual. You pick up, deliver.
Right.
This gave me hope for the day when it comes that we go out, we may mine a certain, gold or something, and we're not taking it we're storing it because we're looking at the stock market, waiting for it to grow. We see it hit a certain number, and we're, all hands on deck. Let's load them up. Let's, take it to XYZ system because, the price is higher over there. I'm looking for these things to come into the economy. Not necessarily just, these contractual ones, which are cool. They're great, but I'm looking for that when we have to sit and watch the stock market and load up and, and take advantage of the prices.
Okay. That's good. That's good, Pops. Let me ask you a question, Pops. Some of the things that Tomato has mentioned so far, and I know we've had this conversation before about, people having to give consideration to all these other areas, right? Because we've had this conversation before that sometimes we think that players don't realize how much stuff they're going to have to consider with these ships. And I'll ask this question since you're here with Tomato too. Do you guys think that there'll be some buyer's remorse? In other words, some people have bought their ships and spent years dreaming of what they're going to do. And Tomato, to your point, all those elements that just got introduced, you talked about components and building out and server blades and paying for NPCs and stocking my ship with food and making sure I've got the right supplies. Are people going to say, dag, this freaking Polaris was too much? I can't even use it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
People already have regret.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what burns a lot of people out on the game. Because they bought a ship and the ship's not fully featured like they wanted or like they thought it would be by this time. And that could be CIG's own expectations, that could be their expectations, or rather the expectations CIG set, but like tons of regret. Yeah.
I know there were people when the Javelin tour came out that went and melted their javelins afterward, because once they walked, and that wasn't even seeing the whole ship, right? But once they saw the scale of the ship, they realized that, man, it was cool when I saw it, but I realized how much it's going to take to run this thing, and let me melt this thing now and get something a little bit more manageable, and that's to your point, without even the features being built in, they just kind of had to make that hard decision. And Pops, you said yes too. You think there will be people that might think that, man, this, it doesn't have to be a huge ship. It could be the Hammerhead. It just may be, once they see how much it takes to run these ships, that they may say it's too much.
Yeah, and I'll give you my best example. Fast Cart has a Banu Merchantman.
Yep.
I have a Banu Merchantman. I do not expect the both of us to be using those ships at the same time. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. But I will enjoy Fast Cart's Banu Merchantman just as if it's mine.
Okay.
And if his ship goes down, and I think people need to see, look at it if they're in an org where their ship becomes the backup, and then we may be able to continue on from there. So it may not go to waste as much as people think, but I think if 5 or 6 Javelin out, from one, it may not make sense. But if you're in a battle and you need to pull out the other one, then
you got to back up.
So be it. We may need to change our thinking.
Okay.
On that a little bit.
Okay. All right, Pops. Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate you. All righty. Cutting through it, Spacetomato. Last one. You ready?
Yeah.
What time is it there, by the way?
10:14.
Okay, yeah.
About 10:15.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure you get to bed early. Okay. All right.
It's a Saturday, man. We stay up all night, of course.
I get it. The Cargo Embargo. What is an embargo? It's an order of a government prohibiting the departure of commercial ships from its ports. That's an embargo. And my question is, CIG just recently gave out this information about, well, we know that the Ibakati's testing the hangars, right? The cargo and all this other stuff is kicking in. And this idea of loading ships manually has gotten some people a little disturbed. I don't know if I got this text in correctly, so bear with me, guys, because I was doing this manually. I neglected to get it into the game earlier. Yeah, I got that one in. Okay. This was a post that was on Spectrum in relation to the cargo. It was posted by ASEA 9000, and the title of this was, it takes an hour to fill up 120 SCUs automatically. That's crazy. That's what Asia says here. He says, I've seen this message in many places. Is it true? I even subconsciously thought it was true because it was in line with CIG's current style. If it's true, then CIG is really crazy. I would accept paying extra for this, but why wait so long? Do people have enough time to do this? An hour of your time can be wasted casually and then click the mouse every 8 minutes so as not to drop the line. It's disgusting, SpaceTomato. It's disgusting. Hang on, I got to see if I can get this one. This is the one I didn't get the format correctly, so bear with me here, gang. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this formatted very quickly. Tomato, would you mind doing me a favor and reading that for me while I kind of format this as best as I can, as quickly as I can?
Yes. Personally, CIG has behaved strangely in recent versions, like a cake that is half creamy chocolate and half cream chocolate. New star map UI in addition to HUD, beacon, beam at the airport, T3 that can be reborn, new EVA, personal hangar, and the bad stuff. New way of loading and unloading, if it's true. Master modes. I lost interest in driving a boat and rarely got into the game. And that's it.
Okay. All right.
I was reading that like there was more.
No. That's fine. That's fine. So this is getting into some of the question I was kind of leading into this with the whole buyer's remorse thing, right? Some of us have known for a period of time that loading into ships was going to be an effort, that it was going to take something. In fact, some people are looking forward to the whole logistics side of the game. Last night, some of my friends, we were on because I was preparing for the show today.
Happy to be here.
It Adventures, thank you for the follow. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. I had 3 friends I got together with. So there were 4 of us. We went and got a C2. We loaded it up with nothing but waste and scrap. And we were very fortunate that when it put all this stuff into the C2, it gave us every variation of a box. We had 1 SCU, 2 SCU, 4, 8, 16, and 32s. It was fully loaded, 696 SCU.
Okay. That's
okay.
Cool.
We bring it into a hangar, 2 people at the back of the C2, inside, 2 people down at the base of the ramp. We're going to unload it and see how long it takes. How long do you think it took, SpaceTomato, roughly?
15 to 20 minutes.
You are on the mark. It took 19 minutes for us to do it. 19 minutes, okay? 19 minutes. And we did that as just a very impromptu. We had one guy who was brand new, who had never used a multi-tool. You had people who were very comfortable with using a multi-tool. We were dealing with the goofy bugginess of the game. We were doing with not knocking each other in the head with a box, but we did it in 19 minutes, okay? Now, it was more daunting to take all those different boxes and sizes and figure out how to put them back into the C2, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole different logistics thing, right? But what we saw was that it can be done. And what we did come away from it was understanding that, 1, people need to know what they're doing. That was really important. The people who were inside the ship were integral to working together to make sure that we didn't conk each other in the head and that we were moving things out in a very even-paced way. When we would clear, we would announce it to each other. And then the people outside had to have some type of organizational side down to the side. If they're going to start putting this stuff into elevators, you can just scatter stuff everywhere in a hangar, right?
Yeah.
So we did see that there was some work involved. It wasn't just as simple as yanking stuff out and throwing it out. So my question to you is this. Is this one of those things that when we talk about change is going to come, that players will either say, wow, this is cool, I see what they're doing, or will people still be conscious? And don't get me wrong, I know time is a factor. Please don't misunderstand me. I know we all have a limited amount of time when we come into the Star Citizen universe. But will accomplishment start to be viewed more as, I wanted to load this stuff up, take it to Grimhex and deliver it? Or will it become more of a, today when I logged in the game, I got my ship loaded, tomorrow I'll finish? In other words, one session doesn't do it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was talking about this on stream earlier after we watched the Star Citizen live, and there are 2 different approaches there. I'm sure there's plenty, but 2 that I saw. One is obviously lowering the time so that you don't have to, so that you're not logging into the game running a mission, like let's say you're a regular cargo hauler and you always have cargo ready to run every time you log on. You log on, you make that delivery that takes you 10-20 minutes, and then you get to your next place and you set up to run another mission. At this point you say, okay, now I need 3 hours, I don't know, 2 hours, an hour to kind of log off and do whatever I want while this ship gets loaded. Then you log back in and you take another mission. There needs to be a ton of good stuff to do during that time that you're logged in. So if you waited 3 hours for your ship to get loaded, I would expect there to be a decent amount of built up entertainment during the trip that you're making after that 3 hours to justify the fact that you're only making one cargo run during your session. And that might be looking at it as somebody who is looking for more excitement and more interest, whereas some people just want to, you know, run some boxes back and forth, do some space trucking. But I do think that cargo hauling is going to be, every part of this game is going to be hardcore to some extent as you get deeper into it, but it needs to still look accessible. And, you know, I've got to agree the times in Evocati right now are very long, and I don't think they're going to stay. I think they're going to change, but it's Evocati, right? This is not the way that it's going to be.
Right.
But I do think that there's a reason to push people to manually load by making that automatic time take more. But I think it'd be better to lean more in how much it costs, and then maybe make it take, like, figure out the baseline. Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing now in Evocati. Figure out the baseline of how much it takes for experienced players, not just, you know, you were saying you guys just casually got together and did that, but experienced players together. Could they unload that C2 in 12 minutes? Okay, well then add 20% onto that, not even more, add 50% onto that, and say that's how long it's going to take to do it automatically.
Yeah.
That's a very rudimentary algorithm or equation, but we've seen that they're working on these kinds of things, and I think that they could calculate something that is a little more forgiving time-wise, while also building into that cargo hauling experience to make it more interesting and more fulfilling while you're actually doing the run, so that you don't feel like you need to be doing 6 different cargo runs in one play session.
Yeah. Okay. Let's bring some folks in. Let's bring David. David's back. Let's bring David in. David, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with much of what SpaceTomato said. Hold on, I need to mute the stream again, sorry. Yeah, so they do need to balance the amount of time it takes to unload and load a ship with people that are going to just press the button and say, I don't want to deal with that. Because if it's shorter than the people that want to engage in that gameplay, look, it kind of cheats them out of, like, well, why the hell am I doing this if I could just press a button and do it quicker? But I've got an idea, and I might be in the minority thinking that this is a good idea, so you guys tell me. With the NPC crew that we're going to have in the future, I think it would be interesting to have some way of interacting with the game while you're offline, and allowing the loading and unloading of your ships to be done through like a mobiGlas app that you get in your phone, and have the ability to send, because you've already got the economy doing NPC missions in the background that you don't see in the game physically. I think it would be interesting to have the ability through a mobiGlas app you have on your phone to send NPC crews not only out on missions but also use them to facilitate these loading and unloading while you're not in the game. That way, when you get home from your work or your commute and you're logging into the game, you're doing what you want to do. If you so choose.
I think that's a fabulous thing. CIG, you've probably been around long enough to remember that CIG did talk about this incorporation of Spectrum into the mobiGlas, into the mobile device, into being able to have a way to communicate, right, in game and out of game, right? And there's always been this question about how does time pass in the game? Does it, you know, for example, is my insurance ticking only when I'm in the game, or does it tick, you know, in real time? Can I set my ship up for loading? If I want to do auto loading, can I set it up for auto loading and log out of the game, right? And maybe my ship, my whole C, takes 2 hours to load, right? So I can log out of the game and come back and my ship is ready. I'm willing to pay the money and let that time go by, versus if I want to hire an experienced crew to load my ship. Again, I think it's a great option that you're suggesting. CIG is going to have to be the ones to figure out what the best option is for it, but I don't think what you're suggesting is outside of the bounds of breaking immersion in some form. I think time is the issue, right? How do we manage time in the game? Tomato, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, it's a big one. And I'm actually, Griffin, I just sent you a picture of something that they did a while back. Just to kind of, I think it was a previs sort of what they wanted to do in terms of how this would all work. It's going to get way more detailed, right? We're going to be able to hire NPC crews to do this loading. Some of those crews might be more or less efficient. You can hire, as you can see in this picture, you can hire 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, they let you specify this stuff. So it will never be a flat rate, I don't think. I think it will always be, as we get further on in the game, it'll always be, what trade-offs do you want to do this? You're going to spend more money so it happens faster because you have more workers there? Are you spending more money on higher quality workers because they're going to make sure your stuff is, getting into the ship with better loading, or like it's more efficient loading on your ship? All that kind of stuff, I think, are the variables they could play with to make these things make more sense. But just like we were talking about earlier with the missions and balancing the payout and all that stuff, that's a complicated process.
It is. Okay. All right, David, thank you for the great suggestions. Hopefully CIG is listening. All right, let me bring in Red Bear next. Red, you there?
Yes, I'm
sir.
here. Well, long time ago, probably you all know this. Tony C was talking about this, that this would go, and we could load and unload our own ships and have timers, or could hire on certain places NPCs to do the loading for us.
Right.
And how many you could hire was kind of depending on how busy that base was. So yeah, it's coming now, and people seem to forget that this was the plan all along.
Right.
Right. It's not something that it's new.
Yeah.
And I think they do the somewhat longer for the NPCs to incentivize working together with other players instead of depending too much on NPCs. Like everybody, what maybe you all know this. Let's make this easy comparison with the Perseus, for example. You can blade those things or put some NPCs in it, and you can fly this whole thing solo. Well, you don't really want that, because you want to have incentivize that people play together. You can do it, but there's a big cost or a big downside to it. That people rather have people around them than NPCs, because we don't want to go make this game into Star Trek Online or something. Everybody has a big starship alone. It's a fun game for 5 minutes, and then you log off, and then you will play something else, right?
Okay.
I think that's the main takeaway from this, that I want to see the balance, that people still want to work together, but if there's no option left, that they still can do the NPC hire. And I think SpaceTomato has their point, that they have to make a nice balance in that sort of thing and make it work that way. But I think this is a good way. And I tried also this loading and unloading for with the C2, but I kind of borrowed their cargo from some other C2, and that was in about what you said at that time. So I think if you work together, it saves a lot of time comparison with what they do now.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Red. Appreciate that, brother.
Yes.
As always.
Yep.
Good old Red.
You're welcome.
All right. Let me bring in a couple.
That teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. We're bringing a couple more people here. Let me bring in Stunner. Stunner, you there? Stunner.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Great to have you with us, SpaceTomato.
Hey, Stunner. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks. So, I it's always good, I think, to discuss these topics and for people to put their opinions out there and start thinking about them. But like a lot of things like master modes, in my opinion, it's far too early to get upset about them, because there's just so many features of the game that hasn't been implemented yet. There's even maybe a few things that haven't been fully thought out yet on CIG's part, and there certainly hasn't been any testing, to see what balancing needs to be done when they start all working together. So I mean, there's so many things down the road. Like, for example, with this cargo thing, I mean, something that I think a lot of us, to a small degree, are experiencing in the game, and that some players like, and that could impact things down the road. They have talked about, like, players being able to sneak into like secure areas, maybe sneak into a space station without going through, like, the regular way we do it now, going through customs. So you could have like a very well coordinated, experienced pirate group that's kind of brave too. Maybe, like, when we're all spread out more, maybe you have a certain space station where cargo haulers are getting a really good price. So they know that a lot of people are trying to go there right now. Maybe they sneak in and they hold up the cargo process, slow it down. So when they actually do try to go and steal the cargo, they have the maximum number of cargo haulers at that station, because a whole bunch of people are coming in, they're being held up for a while. And that's all gameplay, there's all kinds of things. It's not just about, in my mind, it's, you press a button, it's going to take this amount of time every time you go to load automatically, or whether you do it with multiple people.
Okay, good points. Thank you, Stunner. A little too early to say that the mold is set, basically, so that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Quick, go to Tomato, say something.
No, things are changing.
Yeah,
we have a lot of stuff still missing.
Yep.
Like, we don't even have engineering. I think we'll look back at this time and be like, wow, look at how many big major game systems we just didn't have. And more so, we'll probably look back at 2024 and be like, look at how much stuff they put in that actually changed the long term of the game.
That's true.
Just engineering and the physicalized cargo stuff on its own is like big.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to bring Pops in. Is that prayers I'm hearing in the background back there? Are they
yeah. We got Call to Prayers last one of the day.
I can hear it. Okay, cool. All right, let me bring in Pops in space. Oh, I should have brought in Fist space, but I'll bring in Pops. I'm sorry, Fist. I didn't mean to bring in Pops first. My apologies. Pops, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am. I'm here. I'll be really quick. I think there's a lot of things that CIG could do. There could be a diplomat there or something where we could go and talk to this particular person while they're loading our ships. There could be a DJ at a bar we could go into and, catch a drink, listen to some music.
Yeah.
Maybe use our dance emotes. And I think there's things that they could come up with for, to occupy your time if you, don't want to. We could go to the racetracks that they made. So it's a lot of things I think they could add into the game. So, let's think of it on that line.
Cool. All right, Pops. Let me ask you a question, Stunner, on Pop's point. CIG is building a world, and I'm always interested in this idea that you have all these different types of players who are coming in. I'm a role player, right? So let's say, and I do like doing cargo. I'm one of those people that Pops described. I'm one of those people that will say, I'll call out to 4 or 5 of my friends and say, hey, I need some help loading the ship, or blah, 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 whatever. And I'm one of those guys that will say, let's go to the bar while this is being done, or let's go hang out at Wally's while this is being done. There are other people who, that world, that big world that's being built, they run past it and ignore it. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying there's no interest in it, right?
Yeah.
The social dynamic is not an interest for them. So for them, they see that hour as wasted time, right? How can CIG balance that out? I know that, again, I believe they will tweak the times. I mean, I remember back in the day when flying from Hurston to from Port Olisar to Hurston was like 15 minutes. I remember when the train was literally a 5-minute wait, right?
Yeah.
They pull these things in and bring them into a place where they balance reality versus gameplay and fun. And I think they will do that with cargo loading. But there is this dynamic that they're building this world out there where they do want us to be able to go shopping or go do such and such while my ship is being loaded, maybe on an automated way, or even if my friends are doing it. Maybe my 4 friends are loading the thing, but I need to go to the weapon shop to buy stuff or buy food. Will that become more of a part that people might start seeing in the gameplay and embrace more? Or do you think they'll still just be focused on, in-game?
Just like the balancing will get better, I do think that those options will get better too. The big one that I think we're all waiting for is to see if they do end up putting sim pods in the game with access to Arena Commander.
Yeah.
Because that would be a huge way to cut down on time. But at the end of the day, it's a design philosophy kind of thing. You know, we're never going to not wait for trains.
Yeah.
And we're never going to not be quantum traveling across system for minutes at a time. We're never going to not be waiting for our ships to be loaded. And some people will just not like that. And like you said at the beginning of the show, it's just not going to be a game for people like that, at least cargo hauling. And I mean, that's the biggest thing about this whole discussion is like, this is just talking about a profession.
Just that one profession.
This is kind of like talking about master modes, you know?
Right.
It affects combat people the most. So it's a lot of conversation for them. It makes a big change for them.
Yeah.
It affects everybody in a minor sense, but like mainly the conversation is surrounding a certain group of players. Just like this is really about cargo haulers. For the rest of us, you're just loading 1 or 2 boxes into your ship with your supplies for the day, if that's not already on your ship from the last play session.
Right. Okay, good point. Last but not least, bring in Fist to Face, and then I want to ask another question. Yeah, Fist.
So I kind of look at it. I mean, first of all, let's kind of get it started from the point of fact about being angry at the whole thing about loading and unloading times. I mean, we already know that this was coming, right? So I don't see the need for why being angry. For me, I look at it like this. You know, like everybody else said, there's going to be probably so many other activities that'll be there. One of the things that my dad reminded me of was that, you know, remember when Jax was broadcasting on his Moby Glass and the Invictus videos. So you got to probably figure that, you know, if somebody who's wants to sit around and got time to spare, hey, you know, you were in Pyro or something like that, you might want to go see a race and you want to film it on your Moby Glass, you want to broadcast it. So I mean, there's going to be other things to be able to do.
Okay.
You know, in the verse. For me, when I look at it, I looked at it like this. I was like, man, okay, if it's going to take me an hour to load up a big ship or something like that, and let's say it's in an unsecure area, hell, just being, you know, doing patrol is gameplay. You know, because like I told you, when we dropped down to, and I try to be quick with the saying, when we dropped down to this last patch, when we were basically down to the starting money, man, it was rough. It was rough because I'm like, oh my God, you bump your ship, or I'm out here trying to, you know, sell something just to get, you know, a quick buck.
Right.
I'm looking in the sky. I'm on 10, looking for anything that moves. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. You know, that was my whole thing was the point of fact, just feeling paranoid in space. You know, because I don't have any, you know, no money, no
capital,
ducats
no
behind
serious
me.
capital. Yeah. I hear
Yeah.
you. I hear. Yeah, I know. I laughed at people like myself who, you know, only had 30,000 and didn't see the message for the cops to stop. Right, and they got the 20,000 hit right off the bat. It's like,
you know,
exactly.
One of the things that makes me think of is how we have to pay for refueling and repair right now. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't like the idea of engineering, think it's going to make the game worse. But if you look at engineering and what it's bringing in, things like repair and stuff, you realize that it saves us in situations like that where you don't have the money, you can do the work yourself.
That's right.
And I think those are the kinds of things that, like, really small things that just pop up in different parts of the game that can help alleviate this. That there's no way, it's impossible for us to know all of that stuff in a discussion like this or to predict that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right, Fist. Thanks. Keep your eyes on the skies, brother. All right.
Thank you, Fist.
All right. Let me ask you one other question. We're going to wrap it up. I used the example when we started this section talking about us doing a C2, right? But I only did a C2 because I wanted to find the most extreme version of cargo loading in a hangar in the game currently. I could have went to a whole C and other stuff, but we went to a C2. My question to you is this. I've always believed that when Star Citizen launches, when the official thing kicks off, that there are going to be a lot more of us in starter ships than we think. That even though if you own these bigger ships, there is going to be a graduation. Everything is a progression and scaling of our abilities in the game. So even though I might own a 890 jump, I'm going to be flying my 300i, you know, One, because my money is only going to allow me to go so far. If I do decide to fly my 890 jump, I'm going to be broken. It's going to, I'm going to have to be working for somebody. But maybe I can come in my 100i and start out with some basic stuff. Maybe even I can get away with flying the 300 or even the Phoenix, but that might be about it. So instead of me loading 696 units, maybe I'm in my Taurus, or I'm in my Constellation that only does 96 units. And maybe that's what's manageable. Maybe that's not the 1 hour load time. Maybe that's the 8-minute load time, right? And as I scale up, as far as ships and the missions I'm taking, like in real life, you're going to scale up what you need to make it happen, which means hiring people, friends, NPCs, or an org that you build relationship with that you can trust, whatever it is. Do you think that that's something that we as a community and backers and gamers are going to have to start to embrace? I know there's been a lot of solo play. I've done this. I've taken a whole seat out and done a run by myself and hit 3 stations with no problem. But I know that later on, that's not going to be, and I'm not just talking about for the reasons of safety. I'm talking about, to your point, all the other logistics that come along with moving a whole sea through space. Whether it's a caterpillar, same thing. Is it the fact that we've gotten used to playing it in this alpha stage a certain way that when change comes, some of us are going to have PTSD, some of us are going to have to go to the nut house. I mean, what do you think is going to happen when these things get implemented?
Going to need CIG is going to need a therapy department. You're going to have to outsource that. I think, they sell all these big ships, and the hype's around these big ships, but every sign is pointing to the fact that they want people, like you said, in these smaller ships. I call it the fresh zone. Anywhere between 25 and 60 meters, I think, is the golden zone for ships in this game.
Yeah.
Not too big that they're putting out a big signature that can be easily scanned and flagged down.
Yep.
Not so big you got to spend a lot of time loading it. Not so big that you need crew to come and help you, make it work. I do think that we're getting pushed more towards using compact ships, not necessarily solo ships. But I also do think, they're emphasizing that teamwork. Like, if there's anything else you can take from the fact that they boosted these times so high, it's that they want folks to actually load their ships themselves. And every single demonstration that they've shown us doing this stuff, they've shown multiple people, whether it was the CitizenCon demo or Inside Star Citizen earlier this week, or probably maybe even when they run the mission next week on Star Citizen Live. They are very, very much emphasizing the fact that they want people to start playing together. And there's a lot of solo players in MMOs that won't vibe with that. But we do need that. We need public mission boards. We need the ability to assign missions to other people that we know. We need better VoIP services, more self-moderation, more org tools in game. All this stuff needs to start happening quickly with how much they're changing the game up to either emphasize smaller ships or emphasize a lot of teamwork.
Okay. I've kind of felt like we will definitely be leaning more toward, and guys, I'm not trying to take anything away from all these great ships that we have, but I honestly agree with Tomato in relation to from starter ship to, your freelancer max. Those ships that we kind of dismiss and don't think very much about right now, because the grandeur of these ships is so cool, and it's great to be able to make a run and make a, $200,000 in one run, or $500,000.
Sweet.
It's great, but there will be risk with that. There's risk, there's responsibility, there's logistics, there's all those dynamics. And I think in the beginning and for quite a while, most of us will be satisfied. You mentioned great points: low profiles, small footprint, accessibility. Again, one of the reasons why I love flying starters, these guys, everybody knows me. I fly starter ships all the time. I'm in a 100i all the time. I'm in a Aurora MR all the time. Why? Because nobody pays attention to me. Right? I want to get from here to there. I can do that. Right? The Pisces is something
like
a lot
a
of people
beginner.
like. Yeah, exactly. I don't ever get popped at when I'm in those ships. Nobody messes with me. Not to mention the fact that my acceleration and getting in and out of atmosphere is so fast most of the time, it wouldn't even be worth it. But yeah, when I start scaling up to like a freelancer, or I scale up to even a Cuddy Black. Many of us consider the Cuddy Black the workhorse for the world for most of the time, and I can see that as being a great starter ship doing cargo missions in the beginning that I can load in 5 minutes and be on my way versus worrying about the logistics of loading a ship for 1 hour. I think that that's just going to be a transition for all of us as we play the game. But we just want to remind people with this show that these changes are coming. The reason why these prices of ships have scaled up, that's coming. And listen, Tomato, I think they're going to raise them one more time. I think that those numbers that they've given us now,
I don't doubt it.
One more time, one more good time that we're going to get another big jump. So, get it now. I was so disappointed because I was going to pick up a blade during the sale, and I didn't. I said, I just get it in game. And then I went in the game and saw that it went from 2 million to 7 million. I'm like, I forgot that they were raising the ship prices.
I mean, it's still, that price range is still crunched. So they need to raise the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to go up one more time, so get ready, folks. Change is coming. Anyway, that's it. We're going to wrap it up. We had great conversations, especially having our good friend SpaceTomato here with us. I told him I was going to let him go.
Always happy to be on, man. Thank you for inviting me.
We really appreciate you and Mrs. Tomato and your wonderful community over there at the garden. And definitely wishing you guys the very best. I know this last year has been tumultuous for you guys getting back over to Turkey and getting things all settled there. We've been following you guys' journey and thankful that things have moved forward for you guys. And looking forward to seeing the new layout and studio and having all this stuff together, for you guys.
Excited for that, man. Yeah, we've been waiting a long time for that. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Are you guys planning on going to CitizenCon this year in UK?
We plan to. We hope to go there.
Okay. All right, good. Well, hopefully
you'll be there.
Yeah, I've got my tickets, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to do more while I'm over there. Then I was going to go to London for a couple of days afterward, but it may expand now to a cruise to Greece and some other. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. As I'm over there, it's like we'll see what happens. But
all right. Well, if you swing by Turkey, let me know.
Oh, that's one of the reasons why I was actually asking.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm there, but I know I'm going to do something. So,
eat.
Yeah, I know. if nothing else, eat. Right? I've got to eat if nothing else.
Mrs. Tomato is right here telling me, ready to put together a nice spread. You don't have to settle for one dish, my friend.
Oh no, trust me. I would definitely look forward to sampling all of the many wonderful cuisines that are there. Believe me. Okay, so folks, listen, thank you guys, everybody who came in and joined today, especially folks from the garden, from your community. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Hope you guys enjoyed being here with us. Today, as many of you guys know, is PodSat Saturday for us, where we partner with other Star Citizen content creators. On Saturday, Paul Shelley with the Captain's Table, which we actually, when we leave from here, we go over there. So we're going to be sending a raid over to Paul. And then later tonight, our good friends from Relay, the OGs of Star Citizen, they've been streaming for probably one of the longest streamers, consistent streamers we've had in Star Citizen. They're on at 9 p.m. Eastern time. But if you can get a chance to drop in on them, you can have a full Saturday and afternoon of nothing but wonderful Star Citizen conversations and content. Let's see. Let's also talk about what's going to be our show for tomorrow. We are doing a show tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time called The Dangers of Lore. You say, how can lore be dangerous? Well, I'll tell you, if it's done wrong, it can be bad. It can either turn players away from a game or it can excite players. And there are 10 points that we're going to go over of talking about why lore is important, why it needs to be done well, and considerations that you might want to think about, even if it's not in the Star Citizen universe, where you can start looking for, man, what, I thought this game was going to be great, but there's something about it that just doesn't grab me. Or why there's that game that just draws you back all the time and you're looking forward to reading the little inscription in some book somewhere in some dusty library in a game. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us for that.
Very nice. That sounds like a good one.
Well, we'll see how it goes. That's all I can say. That's all I can say about that is we'll see how it goes. We wing it every week, if you know what I mean. So we just try to make it entertaining for everybody. All right. Let's see. Is Paul on? I don't see.
Yeah, he's been.
Is he
pubithoning? Yeah.
Is he? Oh, he's pubithoning. Okay, maybe I just didn't see him when I brought my thing up here. So yeah, we're gonna get you guys set up with the Astro Pub. Paul Shelley. Yes, he is on with 146 people. When you guys get over there to see Paul, let him know that you came from Soul Citizens and from Soul Voices. Tomato, real quick, tell people where they can find you when you're on, all that good stuff.
Yes. We're obviously here on Twitch, SpaceTomato Gaming. Very easy to find. Just chatted in the chat, so you could just click on that if you want to check out the profile. But I also make YouTube videos. We've got 3 YouTube channels that are dedicated to Star Citizen. My main channel, second channel for podcasts. We have 2 different podcasts that run on there. One's a week, one's monthly. And then we have a third gameplay channel that just started up that I'm hoping to get back to once we kind of get settled down here. But besides that, we've got the garden community with the GII org and some great folks, like you said, in chat here as well. And yeah, that wraps it up. Just search SpaceTomato on Google and the links will come, as long as Google is not getting even worse at their search. It's just not great.
I know. Well, once again, you guys make sure you follow, SpaceTomato, great guy, one of the best content creators we have out here, who brings the community together for great conversations every week. So truly support him. And
Thank you.
We're going to point you guys over to the captain's table. Looks like Paul's getting ready for that. Once you get there, send him some love. And as always, we tell you guys, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and peace, love, and soul. We'll see you later. Take care.